for joining today's episode of Small Talks for Big Change, where we help simplify financial topics to help with your financial wellness. My name is Michele Enriquez, Membership Development Manager here at Patelco Credit Union, and today we're chatting getting young people set up for financial independence. And I've got my mom hat on with fellow mom and amazing colleague, Kelley Young, who is one of the retail branch performance managers here at Patelco. Hey, Kelley, welcome to the studio.
Thanks for having me. This place is super cute. Glad to be here.
So nice, right?
Yeah.
So I wasn't going to bring up your football team that is from Philly, but you're wearing a green jacket today, so I couldn't pass it.
Oh, no.
up.
I mean, I can't believe you're doing that. So
I said
that was off the rules. You know, you're not allowed to do that. But yes, it was not the best game.
So we're talking, you and I talk a lot about our kids and getting them set up or figuring out what the right time is to transition from the youth account to really letting the reins go and allowing your child to access funds and use a debit card. And that's what we're talking about today. And there's no right or wrong answer, but I'm excited to talk it through with you, Kelley, because we've both got kids that are at that transition age. And Kelly's a little bit ahead of me. She's got an 18-year-old and a 12-year-old, so hoping she can impart her experience on us today. So we've chatted before, and we think we're doing our best to help teach our kids. And we're lucky that we're exposed to financial know-how all the time, but not everybody is, right? It's top of mind for us. But what would you say about the importance of learning about finances early on?
It's really, really important. Myself was never taught that by my parents. I never really saw saving strategies for them. So when I would get my birthday money or the piggy bank money, I'd want to go out and spend it right away and buy like the cool teen magazine that was out, the candy, whatever I needed at the exact moment, not thinking about future needs. Or not thinking about that cool, bigger thing I'd want, like the new boombox that was coming out when we were little. So I'd immediately always spend it. I wanted to make sure with my kids that I set them up differently and that I taught them to save. So every time that they got a gift or when we finally did roll their piggy bank, that they put part of it in the bank and they were able to spend some of it because you still want to have fun. But then it taught them the value of money more that way. So when those purchases did come that they wanted, they had the money in the bank. Also, I wanted them to be excited about banking because I didn't know what banking was at all. So we started at 8 years old, their first savings account. We rolled their little piggy bank, took their piggy bank apart, rolled all the money, brought it in, and I made it a really exciting thing for them. So then each time they did get money, they were really excited to go in and make that first deposit. I think the importance of doing that then, it set up a habit. And those habits then stay with them through the future. So every time then, when they did get money, they're like, oh, yeah, got to go to the bank, Mom, got to put some of it in. So really, really important, I think, to start them at a young age.
Yeah, and so much nostalgia there. I think we're dating ourselves a little bit.
I did. I said boombox. I dated.
Rolling coins. Yeah. But those are memories. I totally agree. So for me, my parents didn't really help us understand the why behind saying yes or no to things. And you know how kids are, right? I'm sure your kids are the same. You know, they ask for things because, you know, they want them. But growing up, we didn't really get a sense of the value of things or budgeting. So, like, I might have asked for a new piece of sports equipment, like a glove or a softball bat or something, and the answer was either yes or no. There was no real deeper understanding. Maybe, you know, that's something we can invest in when you get more serious, or if you play another year, or that's a really expensive item. Is that something you can borrow for now and maybe you can work towards earning later? Is that something we can buy gently used at a lower price? Or do those things ever go on sale? So my point is that there was never any dialogue around needs and wants, which you and I know is the basis for budgeting and spending.
Absolutely.
Right. So I've got a 9-year-old and a 12-year-old, and they're at that transition age right now where their wish lists are getting more and more expensive by the year. Right. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yes.
It's earpods and iPhones and expensive tennis shoes.
My son is Jordan shoes.
Yes. Trendy clothing brands, skincare products.
Yes. That's the teenage daughter that I have.
Yes. But before I want to hand them a debit card and start their spending their own money, I just want to make sure that they're considering their needs, their wants, our budget and constraints, alternatives, all of that stuff. So for you and your oldest one, when did you determine it was time or that they were ready to make these decisions on their own and manage their own account?
So again, that's never a right or wrong answer with that one, and it's really hard as a parent. because there's lots of scary things. But with my son, when we decided after the savings account to get him a checking, he was a freshman in high school. The reason we decided to get his first checking account is, of course, as a freshman, you get your first part-time job. So we knew with him getting a job that he would need a way to be able to access the money. I wanted to make sure that it was easy accessible for him too. So we really talked about the direct deposit right away. So that way he didn't have to come in and I didn't have to drive him to the bank because he didn't have a car yet. So we wanted to make it very easy. As far as him doing it on his own, it was a little scary because he actually wanted to do it on his own. I asked to be on his account and he said, Mom, I got this. You've taught me a lot of stuff. I have my mobile. I'll show you my balances. It's going to be okay. So that was really hard for me to let go and allow him to do that. But I think, like we were talking about, because I had those conversations with him about saving and how to do things ahead of time, I felt a little more confident letting him go ahead and have his first checking account without me being on it.
Yeah. Outside of that, what else were you worried about?
Probably overdrawing. So I had a bad experience. When I was younger, I went to a bank, not a credit union. They didn't really care. You were allowed to overdraw your accounts there. So I went crazy with my debit card. I probably spent more than I really needed to as a teenager. And again, because my parents never taught and had that conversation. So I was really worried about him maybe doing the same mistake. Luckily, Patelco has guardrails you can put in place, though, so that the teen accounts don't overdraw themselves. So that gave me a little bit of peace of mind knowing he wasn't going to go crazy with his debit card. I also wanted to make sure that he was still saving. I was going to be worried about that if he had a checking and the direct deposit went in there, that he was going to go buy those Jordans. Because even though you have talks with them about the needs and wants, they're still teenagers and want those things. So luckily, we were able to set up, though, that when his direct deposit went in, he had automatic portion of it go into his savings. So made me feel a little better. But definitely, I think those are two of my biggest fears.
Yeah, and he sounds pretty responsible for him to come to you and say, like, I'm ready, I got this, I'm going to show you what my balances are. I think it says a lot about him and his own personality. And I do think the personality and their level of responsibility really kind of depends on when you're going to let, the reins go. So my 12-year-old son is a saver. He hates to spend.
Ooh, that's good.
He will think about things 5 times before he spends the money because he just hates to spend it. He's a hoarder. I have a feeling he's going to be super on top of monitoring and checking his balances. My 9-year-old daughter, however, she's the polar opposite. The minute it comes in, it's gone the next. She's more frivolous with her money, and she's also the kid that's losing her library book. She's not on top of her grades, right? So for her, I'm probably going to wait a little bit longer to get her started. But again, just personality.
You know what? Personality. So my son actually was that. He would lose things in his room. Still sometimes loses his debit card. Luckily, we can lock that on the online banking. But so I kind of thought that too. But you'd be surprised if you teach him from a young age. They can surprise you. But totally understand personalities, because my daughter, just like your son, the saver, though. She doesn't want to spend anything.
Yeah, my son's excited, though. We have a milestone set for his 13th birthday.
Oh, exciting.
He knows that that's, the marker for when he can open his own account and get his own debit card and all that. So there's, something to look forward to, and there's conversation we can have leading up to that. So there's some excitement and build up toward that. So he knows October 3rd.
And it's fun when you build the excitement, because then that makes him want to learn more about finances, I think.
And be good about it when the time comes, right? So almost he views it as a privilege.
Yeah.
What about your 18-year-old? What is the value about how he banks? So what are the things like he really needs with an account based on his values?
Of course, nowadays with kids, everything is convenience and ease of use. Everything's at their fingertips. So for him, that was really, really important. I think because I started him with direct deposit at a young age, he didn't have to worry about his paycheck going into his account or him driving anywhere. So that was great for him. He rarely has to go into a branch because he does everything through his mobile app. Sometimes he'll get one-off checks from like aunties or uncles, because some people still mail checks. And he uses the mobile app deposit. So he loves that, because then he doesn't have to drive anywhere. He just goes to the kitchen table, takes a picture of it. So he loves that ease of use. The other thing he really, really likes is he doesn't withdraw cash a lot, but sometimes he wants to have cash in his pocket. And with Patelco, you can go to any 7-Eleven and withdraw cash for free. Not a lot of people know that.
Right.
But he's like, Mom, 7-Eleven's on every corner. I can get money whenever I want it. So again, very easy. for him. And that's what he really looks for with his banking.
Yep, I totally agree on the digital features. That's how this next generation is going to bank. We've been in a couple meetings this week talking about the importance of brick and mortar, so a physical branch, especially when it comes to young people and applying for their first loan or their first credit card. So while they may not think they're going to need to go into a branch and talk to someone, just that peace of mind to know, hey, when it's something important, like getting your first loan or like if fraud occurs and I really need to talk to somebody in person, knowing that that's there as an option is really critical too, because my son thinks he's just going to have PayPal and he's just going to have Venmo and that's just going to be it. But they really need to understand that, no, there's so much more value banking with a full service financial institution. So getting them to understand those things is really important that we talk through as well. So Patelco's student checking account that we keep referencing here has the ability to integrate with Apple Wallet, right?
Yes, that is the new cool thing that everybody uses. I was a little late to the train, but my son was the one who told me that I had to do it. So I was like, oh, okay. It absolutely has the ability to do that. Makes it a lot easier for them. The kids nowadays don't like to bring their wallets a lot of places. They just do the tap. So absolutely, you can do that with our the teen checking account.
What other kind of features with the account are there? So you can open it with us starting at age 13, right?
Correct.
Okay, and then that goes until 17, and then they can transition to a regular free checking?
Yes.
Okay, and then with the student account, how is that different from a regular free checking account, other than the age range of 13 to 17? They still get a debit card?
They'll still get a debit card, so it works almost just the same. It just allows them, there are lower limits. Like I said, there's some guardrails in place, so they don't go buck wild with spending or overdrawing. So that's something that's a little different, why they're still learning about finances. But it still comes with all the great features, like the mobile banking. You can set up alerts. So if they want to know what their spending habits are, I set that up for my son and he loves it. Sometimes he forgets what he spent, so it'll get alerts for certain dollar amounts. Like every time he spends more than 50, he has an alert for himself because $50 for him is a big purchase, so he wants to make sure. That also helps protect him from fraud. So if his card was ever compromised, he would know right away.
Okay. And then in terms of oversight as a parent, what are the options with the student account?
Yeah.
So can you be joint on
Absolutely.
it? Can you not be if they're ready? Like what?
Absolutely. You have the option of being joint or not being joint. And so maybe at 13 till they're ready to like 16, maybe with your son, you might want to be joint. And then maybe at 16, he's like, hey, Mom, I'm ready. Training wheels are off. Let me be by myself. You can remove the parent at that time. So gives you the flexibility of whatever you feel comfortable with or whatever you decide with your child that works best.
Okay, I'm getting ready. You're building me up here.
Oh, no.
I'm getting the confidence to be able to do
You can
this.
do it. Take the training wheels off.
And I feel like with every episode we record in this studio, fraud always integrates with any subject
It's
that we're
so
talking about.
prevalent out there. It's happening all the time, and it's crazy, the fraud that is being seen out there.
What are you talking with your kids about fraud and scams?
Yeah. Right now, I'm trying to teach my kid that easy money is not good money. So there's a lot of frauds going on with the teens where they're telling them, hey, if you post this on Instagram, I'll give you $500 or $1,000. To them, that's a lot of money. But what I need from you is your online banking information so I can go in and make the deposit. And that is a huge red flag. I would tell my son, you never compromise your login information or your passwords with anyone, no matter the amount of money they're giving you. It is a fraud. It is a scam. The other thing that's really big right now, too, is the teens saying that they're going to get a job online. And if you sign up with us, we're going to send you a check, but we need you to send a portion of that back to us for training or for supplies. Well, that check ends up being a bad check. And then that teen ends up sending the money back, and now they're in the loop for the money they sent back. Or worse, if they actually spend the remainder of the check, when that check comes back as fraud, their account can be overdrawn up to $2,000, I've seen in some examples. So that's a huge one. Never accept checks from people you don't know. And don't ever share your PIN number. I've seen a lot of teens, just give me your card, I'm going to deposit this check in. So I really tried to instill in my son, too, that is not information you ever share with anyone.
Yeah. The sending money and the job thing always,
it's huge.
It blows my mind because you think about it, you're like, I would never do that. But then you think about the vulnerability of a young person and they're trying to get a job and
or they want those new Jordans or those cool things out there. So they fall for the scam thinking that, hey, I have the money now, I can go do it. So
it's no sharing passwords or PIN ever.
Ever.
no sending money.
No
ever.
sending money back to anybody
it's
ever.
It's an empty promise.
It's empty promise.
And then you got to be careful with those text messages or just any kind of messages in general, right? If it's an unrecognizable address prompting you to do something, it's probably not legit.
Yep, that's if they ever prompt you to put in your personal information in any of those texts, it's fraud usually.
Okay.
I would say always, not even usually.
Okay. So if our listeners have more questions out there, we've got 2 great resources for you. First of all, the student checking that we're talking about can be found on patelco.org/student. So that's patelco.org/student to learn more about our Patelco student checking account. We also have some great information related to fraud and protecting yourself against fraud on our Fraud Resource Center, all at patelco.org. And Kelley, we're going to have you back in the studio.
I loved it. It was so much fun. I so enjoyed this. I would love to come back and chat with you again.
But also, you're the best person to pull out all sorts of great information out. So if I need to learn about something else,
hey, come see me. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that concludes today's episode of Small Talks for Big Change, where we help simplify financial topics to help with your financial wellness. We'll see you next time. Patelco Credit Union is insured by NCUA.